I spent $300 on POSCA paint markers, and this is my first time ever using them, so I want to push myself to create something amazing. Digital Circus. But before I tackle that final artwork, I needed to learn how to use POSCA pens, so that meant saying goodbye to my familiar Copic markers. Gone, but not forgotten. Anyway, I'm going to start by drawing some characters from the Amazing Digital Circus. Their vibrant colours work perfectly for testing out all these different POSCA pens. And that's really what this video is all about. It's trying something new. Truth be told, I actually bought some POSCA pens a couple of years ago, and they've been tucked away in a drawer, collecting dust ever since, because I was too afraid to step outside of my comfort zone and try something different. POSCA markers are very different from Copic markers, so I was afraid that maybe my drawings wouldn't look very good with them. But I finally decided to give it a shot and show you my learning experience. Some things might not turn out great, but hopefully by the end of the video, I've learnt from my mistakes and applied it to a really cool final artwork. So stick around to see how it turns out. And if you'd like to see more drawing content from me, consider subscribing, that way you won't miss out on future uploads. Also, give the video a thumbs up if you want to see more POSCA art content from me. And just like that, I've finished my first ever POSCA painting of the weird and wacky Zooble. How do you think it turned out? For this next artwork, I'm going to be using some bigger POSCA markers. They come in different sizes, and that's something I had to adjust to, but we'll see that later in the colouring process. First, I'm going to sketch up the next character, which is Ragatha. At the moment, I'm using blending card for these drawings, but later, on the final artwork, it will be on a canvas board, which works a lot better because paper can start pilling a bit from the POSCA pens, which is a bit frustrating, but still usable. I should definitely do some more experimentation, maybe trying some watercolour paper, or more heavy-duty mixed media paper, so I'll keep that in mind for a future video. But right now, this is what I've got, so I just worked with it. I still think it turned out pretty cool, but if you've got experience with POSCA pens, and you've got suggestions on what you like drawing on, let me know in the comments. So far I've been having a lot of fun using these markers. I've got a lot to learn, but I think I'm on the right track. One thing I struggled with a little bit at first was the lack of colour selection. I've been spoiled for choice with colours when it comes to Copics, there are so many, but POSCA markers are a bit more limited, so in some ways that's nice because there's less to buy and they're expensive, but on the other hand it can be hard trying to get the right colour blends. It's just something you have to work around. Ultimately it means you have to be a bit more creative with colour selection, which isn't always a bad thing, you just have to change your mindset a little bit. Speaking of changing, for my Copic artworks, I'm used to doing the line work first, before colouring, but with POSCA pens, I've found doing the line work at the end is actually easier because of the paint layering and your ability to cover any rough edges between blends that may have occurred previously. I'm no expert with these pens, so I'm sure I'll keep learning new ways of doing things, but so far this has been what's worked for me. And it's super satisfying watching your artwork finally come together with some crisp line work at the end. And of course I can't forget the white highlights to complete this artwork of Ragatha. The vibrant reds and blues of this character look so good rendered with POSCA markers. What do you guys think? Do you rate it or nah? For the last practice character, I'm going to paint Kaufmo the clown. Then I'm going to take everything I've learnt to try and paint something awesome. No offense, Kaufmo. You're still awesome, but I'm planning something a little bit more impressive. So stick around for that. But right now, I'm going to finish off this clown. This is where I finally got the courage to bust out some of my super thick chisel tip POSCA markers, which helped to block in some of the bigger areas. And I definitely should have been doing this earlier, but I just didn't feel comfortable. Now I do, and it's something I'm going to utilise for future POSCA artworks. Ooh, there's some foreshadowing. All that's left for Kaufmo is some crisp, satisfying black line work, and then I'm gonna call it done. Not my best work, but I learnt some things along the way and I'm ready to apply those techniques on the final artwork. I purchased some canvas board, which should prove to be a better surface for POSCA markers to avoid the irritating pilling that occurs when you overwork paper. But the downside that I quickly found out was that sketching on canvas board is way more difficult, and when you want to erase stuff, it doesn't really work, so good luck with getting your sketch perfect the first time. Now I'm exaggerating a little bit. You can erase somewhat, but nowhere near as easy as you can on paper, so keep that in mind. I would recommend coming up with a design sketch on paper first, and then use that as reference to sketch onto your canvas board. Now, that's what you should do. Was that what I did? No. I was lazy and I thought, I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. Luckily, I think it worked out okay, but I definitely would probably do that in the future to save a bit of stress and potential disaster. You'll notice I've faintly outlined the sketch with a pen. That just means I can see it a bit easier. I'm going to be covering it with POSCA paint anyway. That's just an extra step I've decided to do to iron out any issues with the line work and make it a bit more legible for me so I can paint over it with my POSCA markers. A normal person probably wouldn't do this, but I love making my art process more time consuming and unnecessary because that's just what I do. I was born this way. Anyway, I'm going to keep chipping away at these little characters, filling in the details as I go. Another consequence of working on canvas board is the texture, which at first is a little bit challenging for finer details, with the pens sometimes catching and spraying their ink. Very frustrating, but you get a hang of it and I like the effect. It looks cool. It's like a painting, not just a drawing, which I think lends itself well to POSCA markers, which are water-based paint markers, so it makes sense. I definitely want to do more paintings in the future, and POSCA markers are a fun in-between going from Copics to actual paints with a paintbrush. So I'd love to explore that in the future, so subscribe to not miss out on that. Look at the size of these massive chisel tip markers. I'm about to crack these open to fill in the bigger areas of colour. These chunky boys can be very handy for these circumstances, but are rather expensive. Please like and subscribe so I can keep buying art supplies. It's time for the satisfying outlines. This is where everything starts coming together nicely. All that time-consuming colouring is finally paying off. At this stage, I was getting really excited to see how this painting was gonna turn out. I was blissfully unaware of a very time-consuming roadblock I was about to face. But we'll get to that shortly. Right now, enjoy some crispy line work. With the line work finally complete, all that was left was the background. That should be easy, right? Just fill in the gaps, right? Well, it could have been that simple, but I was so indecisive, and having spent so much time on this artwork already, I was fully invested and wanted it to turn out just as I had imagined. The problem was, I hadn't really imagined how I wanted it to turn out. I just wanted it to look cool. I should have done some sketches beforehand, maybe some colour theory, maybe some planning would have been helpful. Instead, I kept going backwards and forwards, painting over and changing colours, all the while trying to find something which I was happy with. It's such a colourful artwork, it was hard to think of a background that would fit with it. I didn't want the background to take away too much from the characters in the foreground, so I really struggled with it. In the end, I did do a very colourful background as well, but I think it works. It's a crazy artwork, it fits with the theme of the Amazing Digital Circus. By the end of it, I was finding myself relating to poor Pomni here. Slightly insane, but with a smile on my face, because I tried something different. I faced some struggles, that damn background, I persisted, and I ended up with something I was really happy with, and a solid foundation for any future POSCA artworks I might do. I'm already thinking of the potential of a Five Nights at Freddy's one, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I hope you like how this painting turned out. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. A massive thank you to my awesome patrons for supporting the channel and enabling me to buy expensive POSCA markers. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.